What's the fastest way to relieve your lower back pain? It's not a trend, it's not a fad, it's not even an exercise that's going to do it. We're going to talk about some solid principles, some solid science that is going to help you relieve your lower back pain as fast as possible. If you are struggling with lower back pain and you do need some help, click the links below, go through to my How to Overcome Lower Back Pain online consultation and face-to-face consultation, where we'll get together and we'll put together a plan to get you out of pain as quickly as possible. We're going to look at this in 3 steps, and step number 1 is finding the posture, position, movement or load that relieves pain, and then that will then in turn wind down the pain. Now, this is the step that most people miss because they go straight to an exercise because that's what they've been told they need to do. They need to strengthen this, they need to stabilize that, whatever it may be. That isn't the case. So when it comes to poor postures, positions, movements or loads, they can irritate tissues. Better posture, positions, movements or loads reduce that irritation to the tissue. So what we're basically saying is, once we've found them, we've then got to try and eliminate them, avoid them, adapt them, whatever it may be. And this is the reason why patients do not get used to pain, and continual irritation increases their pain trigger sensitivity. So what basically happens, it's as if you're tapping away at your thumb with a hammer, and then eventually it becomes painful. And every time it gets touched, you just knock it, it's excruciatingly painful. That's what's happening with most people's lower back pain. And then when they go and do exercise that relieves it for a period of time, and then they do a poor posture, a poor position, a poor movement, a poor load, because of that sensitivity, they just knock it very lightly and bang, off it goes again. So what we need to do is first of all understand what the postures, positions, the movements and the loads are, and then we need to start going about either reducing them, modifying them or adapting them. Because what this sensitization is doing is a neurophysiologic response. So this is why you can hear people that have got a healthy back get back pain, or people that have not got a healthy back don't get back pain. It's because of this neurophysiological response in which pain pathways, so this is the important, this is a nervous system thing we're talking about now, not an actual structural problem. So because the pathways are so ingrained into working, whenever you give it the opportunity, it sends the signal and out comes the pain. So what we need to be able to do is stop that signal getting sent to that tissue. And we do that by finding what the positions, the postures, positions, movements and loads are, because that pathway becomes more sensitive. So what we essentially need to do is desensitize it. So we first of all need to desensitize the pain. Once we do that, that allows the back or the tissue to heal correctly. Step 2, I've kind of already mentioned, but it's this pain trigger and modifying or eliminating it. So let's just say when we go to lift, or when we go to pick something up, or whatever it may be, when we go to bend forward, we round our back and that aggravates it. What we're doing is we are sending the signal to or down the pathway, and it's getting better at sending that signal. It's becoming faster, it's becoming stronger, and that's keeping the pain or the pain signal sensitized. But let's just say, now there are other options to this. This is just one option. This might not be your lower back pain. But let's just say when we go to lift, we change our posture, we modify it, and we sort of create, although my diagram isn't the greatest there, but let's just say we've got let's just make that a little bit better. We've got our spine in a much more advantageous, neutral sort of posture. I know people have their objections to neutral spine and things like that about the range and yada yada yada, that's fine. But let's just say that this posture helps with regards to the pain signal. It either reduces it or it completely eliminates it. What you've done there is you've added another coin in the bank of desensitization, which is again is allowing your back to heal quicker, because every time you send a signal and sense through the pathway, the quick pathway that's sensitive, you add that coin into the back pain account, if you will. So what we need to try and do is take those coins out of the back pain account and into the pain-free account, if you will, by using these postures, positions, movements, or the loads that we're lifting. Because it could be that the load is too heavy, so we need to either lift a lighter load or get someone to help us lift the same load. It could be that a specific exercise is doing it, so we need to modify the exercise. If it is a deadlift like this, maybe we need to lift it up off the floor, so we're not lifting from the floor that's so low down, because that's creating the rounding in the spine. But when we come up higher, we're able to get the proper position of the spine. Maybe it's the amount that you're doing, so maybe it's the frequency of times that you're doing it, and that could be exercise, or that could be lifting shopping bags, or lifting children, or whatever it may be. Maybe it's just the amount of times that you do it. Maybe it's the duration that you do it for, and it's that's causing the problem. It might be that it's a workout session. Maybe you need to do, instead of doing 60 minutes, you need to do 45 minutes. Because you're not putting as much load through the spine. There's so many options that it could be, and in the consultation and assessment, that's what we try and look at. We try and find these triggers. We then try and look at strategies in which we can modify them, and then once we've started to reduce the pain, we can then start rebuilding a healthier back. Because most people are trying to build a healthy back on an unstable foundation, which is this sensitive, irritated tissue, which as soon as you do one thing wrong that's even minuscule in significance, bang, the back pain comes back because you're so sensitive. If we can desensitize it, we can build our margin for error, we can allow the tissue to heal over time, and that's what's going to get you out of back pain faster than just by doing an exercise. And step 3, as I introduced in the last slide at the end, what we've then got to do is find the missing piece. So are you missing core strength? Are you missing core endurance? Are you missing core stability? Or is it the pain being triggered due to hip mobility? Because as I've mentioned before, if I'm stood here trying to lift a kettlebell from the floor, and let's just say my hip mobility will allow me to get that far and my arms come down and I can't quite, excuse my hand, and I can't quite reach it, what I've then got to do to get further down is I've got to round my back so I can then get my hand onto the kettlebell. So it could be, if I increase my range of movement at my hips, I can then get down into that position. So it could be a hip mobility thing. Obviously, core strength, core endurance, core stability. But when you go through the consultation and the assessment, that will start to be highlighted, and when I then read it, I can then start putting all these strategies in place, and then when we get together, we can talk it through, and so on and so forth. And that's what builds the plan. So we need to get these right. So we need to get the postures right, we need to get the positions right, we need to get the movements right, we need to get the loads right. What we can also do is get the exercises right, get the frequency in which you're doing them right, the duration, and I'm not sure why I've written time there, because I've kind of already covered that in those 3. But with that said, that is essentially the fastest way to relieve your lower back pain. Now that doesn't mean it's going to happen tomorrow. It doesn't mean it's going to happen next week. It all depends on your lower back pain. So we've got to think of ways to be able to modify, or first of all find the triggers, modify them, and then once we've started reducing the pain, the tissues are starting to heal, we then need to build in place the missing pieces, which is the core strength, core stability, the core endurance, the hip mobility, whatever it may be. It may not be any of those, it could be something else, but we need to find out what it is so we can then start building the back healthy once again, so it can be pain-free for longer. If you've enjoyed this tutorial, please do hit the like button below. It'll help this video with the algorithm. If you've liked this tutorial and you want to learn more, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon and you'll be sent the next ones. And then finally, if you've got any questions or comments, please do leave them in the comment section below and I'll do my best to answer them as quickly as possible. So many thanks for watching. My name's Chris. I'll speak to you in the next tutorial.